Hey guys, welcome to another installment of Lord of the Flies. Today we'll be talking about chapter number 4. The most important thing to know about this chapter is this is when we start seeing the greater divide between the different little communities that are arising in the society. The first one is to address the Littlelands. They mention in the story that the Littlelands are not a specific age group, but it's a rather gradual decline from the oldest and biggest being Ralph, all the way down to the youngest being Percival and Johnny. The reason for this commentary on the descent between the largest to the smallest is to show that a Littleland is kind of defined by how they act and this kind of understanding of their size, but it is not a distinguished this set of people. It's rather a societal appointment of a Littleland being, yes, this person and on, but you can't really distinguish the characteristics between a Biggin and a Little in the story. The main characteristics that you see with the Littlelands are going to be they play most of the day and they contribute a little bit to the society. They're not big on large contributions. They're not in the meetings where it talks about what they should do next. They attend the assemblies if they choose to. Mainly, it's seen as a game. They have a fear of this unknown beastie, but there is no specific monster in the story at this point that we can attribute that to. So another important characteristic is how the Biggins interact with the Littlelands. And that's the big difference between you might see Simon and Piggy and Ralph interact as opposed to Jack and Roger. The main thing to know is that Ralph is so focused on creating a society. We saw that with the hunts in chapter 3, and we see a big contribution with that in the fire going out and the ship in the distance. What we see is Ralph's main goal is a connection to civilization. Therefore, he utilizes the Littlelands as a part of the community. They contribute to the society. He doesn't treat them any differently, but gives them tasks and things that they can do on their own, which is oftentimes collect berries. But he understands that they're children and allows them to play. What we see a difference is Jack's interaction with the Littlelands, and that's a bit more aggressive. He exploits them, he bullies them, and kind of pushes them off. This represents a real world situation. It's where we have two forms of thought, of philosophy, in politics, that the main source of, or the main goal for a society is to serve the masses. The Littlelands represent the masses. So with Ralph serving and thinking, how can I best contribute to the Littlelands, Jack is almost in this mindset that the goal of a society is to exploit the masses in order to gain further power. And so the exploitation gets power as opposed to power helps those in need. So with that understood, now let's talk a little bit about the Biggins, particularly Ralph and Jack. So let's start with Jack. Beginning of chapter 4, we see them experimenting with face paint. They're trying to think, how can I kill a pig? And so they think, okay, this might be similar to how people in the war fight. Again, what we have to note is a lot of these kids are taking their ideas that they've seen from their adults. They don't fully understand the gravity of their decisions and what they do, but they imitate it mainly by observation. So we see Jack putting on face paint and then washing it off. When he washes it off, it says that his face has come back, but when he has it on, he acts in a different demeanor. This could possibly be a metaphor for putting on a different persona to do things that you wouldn't normally do, i.e. savagery. When he's in the face paint and all he's thinking about is killing, he is a different person. One must separate themselves to create and do certain things that they would not normally create. So what we see is he gets so swept up in the face paint and the excitement and the chanting that he runs off to find a pig and convinces the others in his rule, the other hunters, to come with him. And in doing so, they neglect the fire. We'll leave it there. Now on to Ralph. Ralph sees a puff of smoke in the distance. And so what he does is he runs to it to see if on the mountain the fire is still lit, because what he wants to do is if the fire is still lit and smoke is seen, those passing by can come save them. This is a connection to the outside world. Not only is Ralph focused on serving others in the community, and that's the role of government, he wants a connection to outside society to be saved. He keeps his objectives straight. Everything they're doing on the island is to buy time until they're saved, whereas that does not seem to be the same mentality of the others. So as Ralph goes to the mountain, he realizes that the hunters that were supposed to be keeping it lit did not. Why is that significant? It's significant because Jack is showing his priorities. As we see, Jack comes back with the pig on a stake with the other hunters. They're all face painted and chanting. This gives a communal and a savage perspective on their goals. This is very different and contrasts that of Ralph. He goes, "You let the fire go out." Jack responds, "We killed a pig." He goes, "I don't care about the pig. You let the fire go out. That's the main objective." And so at this point, we see the first instant of physical and outward expression of differences of belief. We saw in the beginning there might have been some potential differences with Ralph being the chief and Jack being in charge of the hunters, but now this is our first instance where conflict is seen not only between themselves but to everyone else. So it then says Ralph asserts his chieftainship for the first time, and what does he do? He tells Jack to build a fire, and he keeps saying it over and over again until it's done. He rejects anything good that Jack has done until the main objective is accomplished. We obviously know that Jack is not a big fan of this thing because he himself wants power, and by Ralph asserting his dominance over Jack, there creates a larger disparagement. It then says that the tensions lower once the fire is built and then the food is made. What's interesting to note in this situation, although the tensions are lower, Piggy once again is neglected by Jack. Jack does not give Piggy any food or allow him to eat. He also assaults him, Jack assaulting Piggy, when arguing with Ralph. What might that symbolize? It might symbolize that a rise to power in this aggressive approach in conflict with those who have a different approach assaults reason. So I'll put it this way. Savagery, when trying to oppose the common system, always results in aggression towards the reasonable and the logical. What we see near the end of the story is we have Simon again. He's seen as this benevolent figure. And when he sees that Piggy is not eating, he gives him his own food. Jack gets angered by this and goes, "I killed the pig, everyone eats." However, what's interesting is he did not say that when Piggy had no food, but only when Simon did not. So, what are the main takeaways we need to know from this story? Well, first we need to highlight the first conflict. The first conflict being the ideas of society according to Jack and according to Ralph. Ralph being that society in politics is to serve the masses, whereas Jack's view is that the goal of society and politics is to establish your own power. Second thing to notice is because of that conflict, now reason, or Piggy, is being greatly oppressed. Therefore, let's see where this continues in the story. What happens to Piggy as it continues? What is the interactions between Jack and Piggy and Ralph? And the last thing to note, perhaps, is how does the savagery continue? Right now, we first saw them where Jack was too scared to kill a pig, but when he put the face paint on, he was able to kill something, although it was for the benefit. Will that continue that way? Or will he use this excitement and this euphoria he got from that killing to go beyond the needs of the society? So the main metaphor is the face paint, the fire, and the symbols of the characters. With that, I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.